Welcome to the Cannon Crue podcast. I am Granite, and I'm joined by three good-looking gentlemen. First, I'm going to talk to Ryan. Ryan, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Grant. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You get some sleep?
Sure. Barely.
Okay. And because you got the new baby in the house, probably not getting anything to do other than watch the baby.
Yeah, 3 months old now.
All right. Are you working foot skills yet, or are we just working on headers?
I think he's going to be a left footy.
Oh,
I know, right? I'm kind of excited.
Exactly, right? So let's switch over to Patrick.
What's going on?
Hey, man, just have a good time.
Kid's still in the womb, but we're working on headers.
You're getting there.
We're also working on the hand up for offside calls.
Well, you can't win them all. And finally, joined by Ed Carson. Ed.
Hello. Mine are out of the womb and just about out of the nest. Got two of them. So hats off to you guys for going through the stage you're enjoying right now. So,
are you going to make it to the empty nest portion, or is that going to be a challenge?
We'll see. We'll see. The strikes and gutters, as the days go. We'll see. We're almost there.
So Ed, let's talk a little bit more about your background.
Okay.
You know a little bit about the football, just a touch.
I've been around the game for a while.
Yeah, and you do a little work with some local teams and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've coached at most every club in the area, existing and previous, except for in the Mount Pleasant area. I've coached up at Somerville Club, at what was called the Bridge. It has come and gone. At the DSO, the Daniel Island Soccer Academy, and I'm coaching at the James Island Soccer Club, but most of it just training goalkeepers there. And I've been coaching high school soccer in the area for about 24 years. First at James Island, and now I've been at first at Somerville High, and now I'm at James Island High. Been there for about 10 years now.
So which one do you like better, James Island or Somerville?
Well, currently James Island. Okay. I like to remind Todd Robinson, who I coach with, that when I was at Somerville, we always beat James Island. And now that I'm at James Island, we beat Somerville. So,
Interesting. Maybe we should, maybe somebody can do some research and figure out why that is.
I don't know. I think it's pretty evident.
Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah, no, we've been kind of lucky the last few years and getting kind of a good influx of talent, and we've kind of created a pretty cool culture there. So
cool.
we've been on the rise a little bit the last few years. Yeah, so it's been fun coaching there.
Another cool thing is you speak Spanish a little bit, don't you?
I do, yeah. I'm a Spanish teacher by trade. Been traveling around a little bit. So I majored in Spanish in college at Clemson, and so yeah, I've been teaching Spanish for as long as I've been coaching here. It's about 25 years.
Yeah, to be fair, I did not meet Ed through soccer. I met Ed through my wife's church, and he seemed like an all right guy, and he likes to drink a beer every once in a while. So
cheers.
So we thought we'd bring him on here. He did ask earlier. He says, "Is it all right if we drink a beer in here?" And I went, "Oh shit!" And I had to run and get me a beer. So let's talk about
the taps behind my shoulder.
Yeah. You gave it away. Yeah, you tipped your hand.
Usually he has a different drink in his hand, but anyways, let's talk about the battery. Cool. No, we're not going to talk about the battery tonight. We're going to talk about Ryan. Promotion relegation.
Oh,
massive thing happened today, right?
Massive. So what this promotion relegation is really between division wise is in 2027, USL is going to implement a new division called Division 1. That is going to be their top flight division. And then they'll have USL Championship, and then they'll have USL 1, all three partaking in the promotion relegation.
Let's back up for a second. So U.S. Soccer, there's up until here recently, there's only one Division 1 sanctioned league, correct?
That's MLS. Yes.
MLS, and they were not going to give a second Division 1 sanctioning until here a couple months ago, and that's kind of what led up to this. Okay,
very exciting.
So we're gonna have a division that it's the same level as the MLS, but there's gonna be promotion relegation.
Well, because they're going completely separate from what the MLS is doing. The USL is trying to make it more of a player family market rather than about money and selling at the highest capacity. So for this Division One, you're looking at more soccer specific stadiums and getting in an audience of around 10 to 15,000 people. A lot of this is to target these young players to come in who are not getting a lot of minutes at top clubs, but to come in and be seen by top European clubs or clubs abroad and to get their chance seen on that stage. As you've seen from the last 2 to 3 years from USL, we've sent actually quite a few players overseas. And have
I'm
had
going to stop you right there. Ryan, I'm going to stop you right there. Patrick, show us the goods.
The good. Oh, Ryan wasn't here earlier.
No, he
was busy
wasn't.
taking a cat nap, wasn't he?
Hang on. Watch this. So we don't know what you're talking about. Go ahead, Ryan.
beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Just the most recent one sent.
That's just the most recent one this past January. But so that's exactly where it's headed to. So now you have this rival division, and inside the promotion relegation, like I said, it's going to pertain to USL Championship and USL League One. Now there is still USL League Two, and that's going to remain as a semi-pro league for mainly college kids and high-level academy players trying to break through to that college level. So that's going to remain a summer league, essentially.
So it will be considered a top tier, top division league according to U.S. Soccer. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. They're going to be on the same pyramid. And what is also good news as well for those who kind of following in USL Academy is now on the same tier as MLS Next on for youth academy levels.
Really interesting.
Yep.
So Patrick, what do you think about this?
I think for the first time in history, a long history, U.S. Soccer's doing something in the right direction and not just sticking with MLS, backing MLS and kind of killing the dreams of promoting soccer in this country. And what better way to develop talent for the U.S. than to offer more ways of guys to play professionally and more ways to develop, more competition. I think it's great. I mean, it's something I don't think I foresaw coming to the U.S. in my lifetime, to be honest. And to an extent, it's still not a true free market. There are requirements to get in. The new league isn't set. It's not, hey, we're just going to take the championship teams that are current and move them in. There are going to be requirements for teams, requirements for owners, requirements for stadiums. But it is a step in the right direction. And at least the conversation has gotten past the point of just speculation. There's been a vote. It's been approved. We're going to move forward with this. So it's at least exciting times to live in and kind of see how this unfolds. And even what's going to happen to MLS. Is MLS going to try and just buy in? And for the first time in history, we're just going to have one structure in the United States that has all the leagues in it, and maybe we work off of that. Who knows?
So you're saying there's a possibility that MLS would fold into this structure and become the first division or work parallel next to it?
I think for the short term, I don't think so. But I think long term, if this gains what everyone kind of thinks it'll gain, and the fans are already there for the USL, I don't see why MLS would want to stick to their pivoting point of we're MLS, we're MLB, we're NFL. Nothing can fight us. Like, this is uncharted territory for them.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike NFL and what was that, USFL?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, it's not that dominant factor in the country where something comes up and whatever, have your fun with it. Like, USL has a lot of legs, has a lot of academies. It has a lot across the country that offers more than 36 teams or 32 teams.
So what is the selling point? What in the long run? I think I heard you mention, Ryan, that it could be potentially a starting point for young professional careers for younger players. who have aspirations to maybe perhaps go play abroad as well. Is that a selling point for the league?
Yeah, and maybe they don't get the look right away at abroad, but if you're able to get yourself on a USL2 team, and try out for those like summer colleges, a lot of coaches are well connected with each other and they're going to help you get on a team. Like I played for Charlottesville Alliance, and that was a great experience for me playing in the summertime. And I got to play with like Henry Kessler, who went number 5 in the MLS draft, and Daryl Dyke, who went number 4 in the draft. Those were my teammates, and getting to play in that kind of experience with them is great. So those are the same type of the experiences and opportunities that college kids are going to have over the summer. But through that, they're still able to get looked at by other USL teams. And that's how you're able to get on the trade market as well.
What kind of 2 things? Do you think this is going to cause players to stop going and playing for colleges and try to get in that pipeline? And is it going to attract more international players coming to us?
Well, I think,
AKA Juan David.
I think you're in the right direction. I think a lot more collegiate players are going to target certain schools now. For instance, College of Charleston is looking like a real hot spot right now because you have the Battery who train with them. I think at Penn State, where Aaron Malloy went, they have a USL team right over there, a USL2 team, I believe. They're constantly training with those college players. Holstra up in New York, I believe it's Rhode Island or Long Island. They also just partnered with another USL2 team as well. So partnering up with the colleges is a great advantage point and a great starting point for these clubs.
And from what I understand, Rhode Island and Long Island are essentially the same.
2 completely different things. I'm sorry, no sleep. It's Long Island though.
So Ed, you've been around the game of football for a while. You've probably watched a lot of Spanish leagues and stuff like that. And I understand you're also afflicted as a Leeds fan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Kind of recently, I was kind of infatuated by them, and it's a cool thing.
So speaking of promotion relegation, so what does it mean? What does it mean to the fans that have to survive that, up and down?
I mean, at the end of the day, like what's cool about it is that more teams have things to play for. I mean, if you look at the traditional U.S. structure, the only teams that have anything to play for, the last teams, are the teams that are the most recently in playoffs. And, in your mid-table, a lot of these teams really typically have very little to play for, don't they? And you see the NFL, teams down at the bottom of the division. I mean, even like weirdly in the NFL, like those in the bottom team get the first pick in the draft. So there's almost a weird, like almost incentive to not finish at the bottom of the league. And, as you understand with promotion and relegation, there's a huge incentive for teams to not be relegated and finish in the bottom 3. So it makes as a fan, it makes it a whole lot more interesting. Teams celebrate coming in, just outside of the relegation zone, like they've won a league. And so it's a lot more interesting. Obviously, hopefully Leeds will be back up into the Premier League next year. And we're in position to do that. If we continue to keep it up. But it was those previous couple of seasons when we did manage to get salvation and stay in the league. I was freaking really excited. Last year it didn't work out so well, but yeah. So So I understand it. I get that. I appreciate the concept of promotion relegation, and I'm kind of excited for happening within the realm of the USL. But I'm just kind of, I guess, scratching my head in terms of like it competing in the long run with the MLS, with the markets the MLS are in. I mean, I kind of dig the concept of the soccer specific stadiums that most of the MLS teams still aren't in, or many of them still aren't in, but they're still getting relatively good viewership and attendance at a lot of the games. But so I appreciate the kind of like what I foresee is it looking like a smaller atmosphere, more unique to a soccer atmosphere in the games. But I wonder about how it's going to compete with the league in attendance and in the great market. And I think that's going to drive the talent, to be candid, and who comes in and what the level's going to be like. That's a big question mark for me.
And I suspect it's going to be more teams, right? I think it's because it's a pyramid system. Even the top level, you might not have the 80,000 seat stadiums that you're going to fill up. I don't think MLS teams are filling those up anyways. But I suspect you'll have more Division I teams. And so they'll be spread out and you'll have a lot more options to be, as a fan, to pick a team that's closer to you rather than Miami.
Yeah, but it makes it more personable too, right?
Yeah.
Like that team, because it's more of that town, that community, that ownership of what they represent while playing. Because in England, you have loads of teams all over the place, and like, you know, in this one town where 300 you get 300 fans for this one little club, you know, that their club to go to. I'm predicting this massive swing. So like, Ed, you're not sure how it's going to go. I'm going to lay out a prediction for you right here, and it's perfectly laid out how USL did it. I think they're extremely smart, and by waiting until 2027, because the World Cup in America will have just ended. Messi's contract and his retirement will be coming up. He is already in talks with Barcelona and going to ownership, just as Ronaldo just got ownership of Valencia. So they will start then a rivalry in La Liga as owners. And with that then taking place, all of those new MLS fans that are coming in, they're going to be left stranded. Promotion relegation is what's going to entice them and bring them in. And I think you're just going to have this massive swing of fans that no one's going to expect in the beginning, but it's going to happen by the end of the season. USL is going to be the main focal point, and you'll see after 2 years, a lot of the MLS players transferring out.
So Patrick, we know there is a path to get here. And a couple of years ago, there was a lot of talk about promotion relegation. I think that the new CEO of USL at that point come in, and I think he thought it was a done deal. But we talked to somebody today that wasn't a done deal. And just to get to where we are right now, on March 19th, there's a pathway to get there. Ownership of teams weren't necessarily wanting to do it before, but now all of a sudden there's a big switch. Why do you think that is?
I think we've grown as soccer fans in this country relatively quickly over the past 2 years. I mean, you see it with, I won't go too much into like the MLS TV deals, but mainly the deals to get more international soccer on our sports programming and readily available to fans, where, hey, I mean, like Ryan's situation, maybe you wake up at 7 a.m. just because you got to get up with the kid for a quick minute on a Saturday or a Sunday. There may be a Serie A game on or a Spanish La Liga game on. I mean, there's always an option to watch something to expose the American fan to a little more structured football than we're used to seeing over here. So I guess maybe the fandom's grown so much where we're now seeing more USL clubs be taken seriously because we're having these structures. We're having more fans at games. We're having more talks like this where people are doing podcasts about their favorite teams, and we're getting more players to, as Ryan mentioned, go international football. But you're also seeing guys defer from MLS or MLS Next, or guys who are drafted in the MLS draft go play in the USL to have a better opportunity to develop themselves as a player, develop their career, and maybe continue the path instead of just sitting behind whatever, being a training player or something like that. There's other avenues to explore. And I think we're just growing on that level, that the more teams, I mean, we see it, we have what, 4 USL associated teams within a 3-mile radius or 3-hour radius of us. Like, it's just helpful to have more options than just the standard, what we grew up knowing. Hey, the big cities have it. If you want to get in one of their academies, hopefully your parents have the cash to move you, get you into their programs and kind of stick with it. I mean, it's nice because maybe this is going to develop talent around the US, not just based on how much money can we spend to get them into an academy, but more so, hey, we have a local club. Let's start there.
That's a solid point. That's an excellent point, because I feel like as an organization within U.S. soccer, we do sort of limit the talent pool with cost limitations. You're right. I mean, it's a high level investment for families to really truly invest in their kids to compete at the highest level with all the different academies that there are. And I think we're missing out on a huge talent pool. And yeah, perhaps with spreading out the and creating more professional clubs with real professional academies, can open the door for a lot of kids to play and to develop. It's really about development, and hopefully in that respect that helps. Hopefully the rising tide raises all ships. And I kind of agree that the talent level across the board is rising, and it's high time a program like this were to take place. So
yeah, we're starting to see stadiums like is it Louisville? How many they fit? It's a brand new stadium, and it's soccer specific, and it's not to the size of what regular MLS pitches are, but hopefully they stay in the USL. And now they can, fill the seats maybe, because it all comes down to money, right? It's a business. They got to run a business. Where they make the money, where you saw the big leaps with like the English Premier League, is television rights. And over the last couple of years, we've seen the bad rate just go from, I don't think that we were on anything being televised to a couple of years ago, all of a sudden we're the USL Championships on ESPN Plus. And then all of a sudden it's Golazo, which is I believe is a CBS run thing, and it is just incremental steps, and that means a lot to ownership of teams, because now all of a sudden you have money coming in.
Well, that's a testament. Sorry, but that's a testament to the new Charleston, the ownership with Salvatore. They've done an amazing job from the previous owner, so that's an excellent point. Am I right? Am I in understanding? I'm kind of a novice to all this, but one kind of a fundamental difference between USL and the MLS is the MLS ownership is, they're all members of the MLS, and with USL, the ownership are strictly loyal to their particular clubs. And I think there's a fundamental difference in the ownership in that respect, which will benefit the structure, I think, in the long run.
Also, yeah, the MLS is like an old boys club.
Yeah.
So if you didn't get in, you're not in, you're never getting in.
Well, it's like it's a hundreds of millions of dollars bond to open and start an MLS team.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, you could lose the whole time and never have to worry about losing your spot in the MLS, right? Just like any major league sport in the United States. And this is going to turn the table on that. And for the uninitiated of the 3 listeners we have, maybe 4 now that Ed is on here, he might listen. Somebody like my wife who listens, I think she listens 3 or 4 times. That way that ups our numbers a little bit. But there's a lot of fan base that have been built up watching Wrexham. Right? Wrexham would not be Wrexham if it was not promotion relegation, because who would give a shit? But to bring that into everybody's living room that wants to watch it, that had no interest at all in football, and all of a sudden they're watching this small club all of a sudden start getting promoted and getting a little bit of money and getting promoted again. And that could be what's going to be happening here. Or like the Wolves might get relegated and then they have to fight their way back up.
Well,
see, they're making
right.
Hey. You're also realizing too then that Wrexham, by people watching that and trying to get into soccer, USL is the perfect spot to look at it. Just like Ed said, the clubs are owned by the owner, not by basically the league. And you're making it more about the town, the community, the city, everything about that area. And it makes it more personal. and the entire town's going to be there to support you. It's like
And then
we
all of a
felt
sudden you have
the final, you know.
you have all these teams that could be, you know, like in the Premier, and I keep defaulting back to the Premier League. You have the Big Six, and everybody knew who they are. But all of a sudden, you got like Ipswich Town, or last season it was Luton Town, small stadium in the middle of their small town,
Most
and all of a sudden
beautiful-
you have Man City,
Yep.
some other teams that we won't mention coming into this little bitty stadium, and just it had to have been magical for all of them.
Well, because you're also you got to realize too, though, like a lot of fans want more interaction, and when you make the club about their hometown, and you're making it small enough and personal enough, like you're shoulder to shoulder with the guy next to you in the supporter section, you're throwing beer in the air when we score. You can talk to the other goalie. Or no, we can't throw beer now.
That'll get you kicked out.
Want to get kicked out now if someone complains. But you can also talk to the goal. Well, you used to be able to also talk to the goalie too. Our stands got removed.
We're not whining about that right yet, but we will.
No, not worrying about that yet. But other clubs and stadiums and stuff around our league offer that, and you're not going to get any type of opportunity like that in MLS unless you're paying the $5,000-$10,000 for those seats or clubs or whatever you want to have, and it's just not worth it.
No, like you're talking about exposure. Is this not also an amazing play by US Soccer with hosting a World Cup coming up to get more fans just talking about them as well? Like, hey, I'm not saying it's a bone that they threw at the USL, but it's something that they definitely did in this timing, because it's been 30 years. Nothing's moved forward. So like, it's definitely like, hey, let's get the people talking. Let's get them a little more into US Soccer. We're hosting a World Cup. Oh, those said stadiums, those big giant stadiums, football stadiums.
Yep.
We're going to need to pack them outright. And we're not lowering prices like we saw with what the CONCACAF Champions League and the Club World Cup, stuff like that. I mean, that's been a big struggle in their pocket, just trying to fill stadiums.
I'll say Atlanta United's got it figured out to some degree. I mean, they kind of structure their pricing based on what they think demand for the game is. You know, if Messi comes in with Miami, the tickets are going to be $110, $150. You know, but typically tickets are $20, $40. And they have pretty good attendance. Even like when they initially moved to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I thought this is ridiculous. There's no way. And then went to a couple games, and they fill the bottom bowl, and often for big games they'll open up the top tier, and they've got pretty good attendance. Now they're one of the top teams in the league in terms of attendance. You know, they're not all doing that kind of business, but that's an example of one club anyway that I think has gotten it pretty good.
Well, I think the attendance went when they went to Mercedes Stadium because they have air conditioning.
It's pretty.
I was so pleasantly surprised the first time I went there. I was a wee bit hungover with my buddy, and I realized, what is 73 degrees in here? Yeah, I could do that.
It's really nice. Yeah.
Well, Ed, that's a great point, because not a lot, but a good amount of MLS clubs have good ownership that want to see progression of the game in US Soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think like these two leagues could eventually get to that roadmap of let's integrate. I don't see it right away, but I think there's enough. Nobody gets in besides like the Stan Kroenkes and stuff for business purposes only.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Columbus Crew, where I grew up, they were overtaken by ownership group when they were trying to be sold off. A whole long story from like when that happened to the Cleveland Browns, but basically it's offered to the community first to come up with the money to buy the team before it gets moved out of state from underneath you. But like teams like that have like a fan trust that has a vowed interest and a financial interest in the club. I think clubs like that, Atlanta United, even maybe Sporting Kansas City, stuff like that, Sounders may want to integrate into a common league because they already have the name. They have the financial ability to pay for top talent, which will benefit buying more European talent, bringing them to the US. But yeah, I know we shit on MLS a lot, but there are some good ownership groups in the MLS for sure.
Yeah, there are some, but you look at how the downfall can play and how the US went in with USL on how they announced it and when they announced it, how Messi's contract is structured. Again, Granite had mentioned earlier the TV rights. Where is MLS currently only being watched on right now? Which is on Apple TV. When that 3-year contract is up after the World Cup, because that's when their contract ends, CBS already has USL and they're going in promotion relegation. I think CBS pushes that way and MLS doesn't get picked up. So they're going to lose money there. It's a whole chain effect that kind of goes into it, and MLS is going to lose out, and the ownership is then can make it work and come over and create the Division One. But it's going to be a lot of back and forth fighting on it.
I think some with mobility, with team mobility, like NFL, that we've all seen, is that stadiums in those type of markets, I believe, are probably owned by the municipalities or the local governing authorities, and so there's not that loyalty. That you're not, when you pick up and move, who cares? But when you're a team and you own the stadium, I know we're not that situation here, but I think we have a good partnership. I think with the Battery and CFC, because a real good use of facilities for two different teams. But I wonder if that affects how teams might not move around, or maybe there's got to be some linkage there. So all of a sudden the Charleston Battery doesn't turn into, the Kansas City Battery, because that doesn't make sense anyways.
And I think with kind of the direction this goes with allowing more clubs exposure, which allows them to build their own academies, which, let's be honest, a lot of USL teams struggle with because they don't have the financial backing. If we move in this direction, you'll have a more rooted system, and you have these teams staying more because it's part of the community. And not just like it, in essence, for us, it would be like our MUSC. Like MUSC is not just going to pick up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of their home. This is where they want people to come and be attracted to. And I think that's my favorite takeaway from this is that just development of youth talent in this country is going to get looked at under a magnifying glass instead of just being pay to play for the biggest aspect of what we've seen.
And I think it also upped the level of coaching, right? Because all of a sudden now there's going to be a demand for talented and skilled coaches. I think, Ryan, Ed might be able to test this. There's probably a whole group of coaches out there who do not believe that getting their licenses through the, was it the DCBA levels is worth the time and money. I strongly disagree. And I think Ryan ran up against that, and maybe somebody told him, don't waste your time. But maybe when there's more academies and you have to be at a certain level, it'll raise the level of the coaching, which raises the level of the playing.
Well, I think I would love to see that as a byproduct of this system in the development of players, and I hate to say, but like maybe the buying and selling of contracts of these young players, as a revenue stream for these clubs. That's kind of like the European system is like. And so there's a vested interest there would be, hopefully, a vested interest in the USL academies to develop players and have them move along. And so then there would be a vested interest in quality coaching. And yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly about the importance of coaches like training and I have a license, I have a D license. But I've spoken to folks who've gone back and got their C license and moved on. But I hate to say, like some of the training that at least I've heard about secondhand has not been, it's a lot of paperwork shuffling, a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily translate into what happens on the field. But I can't speak on that from firsthand experience, but that would be an amazing byproduct of this system, is watching it become more about development of players than the promotion of your club. Because that's kind of where I see is youth club soccer system going right now, is like all the clubs trying to gobble up the top talent players in the area and promoting the club. It's like, oh, look what this club is able to do, and then making big promises to players, but in not necessarily turning into like the development of the players that are in the area. So that would be amazing to me.
Right. It feels like each year they're coming up with a new youth league and everything like that for these parents who shovel money into.
Yeah.
But again, like if you go through the USL route right now, the USL Academy is having that same rank right now as the MLS Next stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And all that we're missing right now in the Charleston area, you have the Battery. They're your top team. You can have a USL 2 team now. Now that you know that they're not going to directly compete with the Battery, they're going to be that summer team where the Battery could buy players off of, or vice versa. The USL 2 team is going to be what sets up your academy. And those summer college kids who come in, they can offer one-on-one training sessions to help pay for them, for their needs, and also raises training in the community as well for these younger youth players or younger academy players. Gives them more experience with players who play all around the world and stuff. It's just a massive benefit, but is someone going to have the belief and the will to drive it forward?
I think another big aspect that was going to benefit from this, we were talking before we started podcasting, but is the refereeing. You're going to get better quality refs out there. You're going to get better quality coaching, classes, seminars, up to date. You're going to get more people wanting to do it because there's more positions, more bigger games to get into.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more money on the line for teams. And so so they're going to make sure the leagues are putting more emphasis on a higher quality officiating.
I think in the grassroots level, the whole idea is amazing. And like I said, I hope the byproducts turn into better training, better coaching, better player development, better community growth. But I still have that question of like, what's the top tier level going to produce? It's really, ultimately you need a big market to pay big salaries to bring in the best players. And those markets are kind of taken up. I'm trying to imagine without the integration with the MLS, like you're talking about with clubs like Portland and St. Louis, etc., Columbus. Like I can't imagine a USL top tier division team going in and trying to compete in the Los Angeles market, for example. It already has two major clubs right there. I just wonder in the long term what the top level is going to be like compared to the MLS. I mean, I agree it's going to raise the level across the board, probably, hopefully. But I wonder what the top echelon is going to be like compared to the MLS without it integrating eventually with these teams.
Maybe we need to look at it different through a different lens. Right now, we're talking about the lens of what major league sports we have in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 350 million people here. What if we looked at it in the lens of maybe we look at smaller portions? For example, if you look at the EPL, you've got some of the best teams in the world. If you look at La Liga, you have some of the best, and the area where they come from, population wise, is relatively small, and they're smaller countries. What happens if it started getting portioned out like that? Because they seem to make it work. Well, most of the teams do.
They got deep pockets. Some of these top teams have big time deep pockets, and in order to bring the salaried players to come in, a lot of times they have this ownership coming from who knows where, with crazy money to spend, and then you can get wide viewership and TV dollars. But maybe why couldn't that happen here?
Yeah, because I'm just going back. There's a lot of fantastic leagues across the face of the earth.
Yeah.
You got the Big Six and EPL, but you also have 20 teams in the top flight, and there's a lot of small towns in there. Ipswich Town, Manchester United. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Brentford, Southampton. They're not big cities. They're not big markets.
Look what Leicester did.
Yeah. Look at Leicester. And so maybe we just have to look at it differently. And get some TV actors to buy some teams.
It is a different culture, not living in it day to day and going back to our American lives of like oh, basketball's on, football's on, baseball's turning around, coming on. Like, yeah, I mean, when it's your dominant only thing, everything you do in the country first, it is helpful because a lot of energy is at least focused on your kids to be like, hey, this is the sport we play in the country. Like, go have fun. Oh, you like it? Okay, well, let's go develop a little more here and play here. Let's go do a game. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough to compete with the big boys now, but who knows, 20 years down the road, maybe this will turn into something that is our second or third biggest sport in the country.
I mean, look at the Battery compared to. I haven't been to a River Dogs game in a while, but when we went there, it seemed like the majority of the people are going there just to go watch a baseball game, one off, and they're done. Thursday, and they're done. We're consistently not packing the stadium at Patriots Point, but consistently putting a lot of people in there that are now season ticket holders. And if you're not a season ticket holder, I encourage you to contact the Battery and talk to them and get you some. They're really not that expensive when you think about it.
We'll get you soon.
Yeah. Ed, we're looking at you. We have information.
I feel your
we
eyes.
Have information about you.
Yeah.
So,
I used to be a season ticket holder back a while ago when it was on Daniel Island. Then stuff happened, and I'm encouraged with the new owner. Well, I guess it's relatively new ownership now. So, but it's beginning to look again like what it used to.
Well, I've seen you twice this year, right?
Yeah.
And we've only played 2 home matches. Yeah. Or did I see this? So you're already there.
I'm there.
Might as well get the 30% discount or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to talk about quickly is about right now we do regular season and then we do playoffs. I hate playoffs. Playoffs don't mean anything to me because that's the best team that played best throughout the whole season, consistent throughout the whole season, isn't necessarily the one that wins the big trophy at the end. And I don't think I think it's just a shite thing. If it's a regular tournament, that's one thing. But if it's over a long season, now what do we do? Because now the risks are greater now, right? If you're a team trying to get into the top flight and there's a playoff at the end, you might have been the best team all season, but all of a sudden you end up 8th, or that's the way people view you. So do you think the top level does a playoff?
What's interesting, it's an American concept, isn't it? The concept of a playoff. And I happen to be on the school of thought that I love to maintain an American identity on soccer. And so I guess I see your point of view about like, well, you know, what have you produced throughout the whole course of the season of the point system? And that's the way promotion and relegation has to work. But that would be that's an interesting way to approach it. Is like, where are you at the end of the season? With the teams that we've coached, on the high school level, it's a different level. But like, I tell you what, like we're typically a very different team at the end of the season as we are at the beginning of the season. And I'm thankful for the fact that we have like a playoff system, because if we were to rate us based on what our worth and what the product we produce from start to end, we wouldn't be kind of where we are, because we're typically better at the end than we are at the beginning of the season, and that we develop as a team. Yes, so that would be an argument for a playoff system, I think.
And I think the second division now down, which will be, I believe, the USL Championship, do we maintain that? And then the top 3 teams, or however get promoted from the playoffs?
No, you copy, you still have a playoff. So you do exactly what the championship in England does, where the top 2 teams get promoted, and then 3 through, I believe, 6 play in the playoffs between them, and then one team gets promoted.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. 3 through 6. Yeah. Leeds lost in the final last year.
Do the other leagues do that in Europe?
I think
in their second divisions?
League 1 may. I don't think League 2 does it. League 2 is just the top 2 or 3 teams that promoted.
Okay.
But championship may be the only one.
I think it may be, because they call that championship final where the final of the 4, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th they call that the most lucrative final in the world. You know, because that team gets to be promoted to
the big jump. Yeah. Okay,
I think
Patrick,
if
do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you're going to say, do we stick with a playoff format or not? I think your feet are already in the water. Put the whole body in. You've already made the commitment to do promotion relegation. Just go all the way. Copy the formats you see across the world. Stick with it. If it doesn't work, then maybe it's back to the drawing board or we implement something down the road. But don't just abandon something that kind of works for the entire world just because we don't want to adapt to it right away.
Yeah. And we can still have that playoff system where it's 3 through 6. And I think if you were to have the championship, I think USL could still probably make a playoff bracket work just for the top division.
Well, why not?
We'll have more cup competitions from it too.
Yeah, exactly.
So
expend that energy into cup competitions.
Well, we have a cup competition
the
season, the Jägermeister Cup.
The what?
Jägermeister Cup.
Jägermeister Cup. Does that mean they're going to serve Jägermeister at the battery?
So.
If not, there might be some in the parking lot. Maybe.
There's definitely some in the parking lot.
Okay.
You'll have to look out for the flares if that's happening.
Okay. Any final thoughts? I got them from you, Patrick. Ryan, you got anything?
Score predictions from last game. Anyone get any right?
I did 2-0.
Huh.
I even predicted Torres, but he didn't get one.
I said 2.
I always predict 2-0, Ed. If you don't notice, I'm always 2-0. Torres scores both of them.
Okay. I would call that 2-0, I guess. I'll have to. But Torres, huh?
Yeah, Juan David.
Granted, where's your hat?
Which hat?
See,
oh, my. Hang on.
Don't worry, we'll get to follow you with the camera.
There we go. Colombia. Ed, thanks for joining us. What do you got? Final thoughts on all this?
Well, I mean, I'm as excited as you guys about the promotion relegation, and I'm excited about. I guess I've developed some thoughts as we go because I didn't know this was even coming down the pike, but I'm excited about the byproduct of what could come of this, you know, and I see the potential for a lot of local markets really thriving and a lot of local clubs really thriving. And like I said earlier, like, hopefully the rising tide rises all ships, and hopefully it'll be for the benefit of player development and coaching development and even the referees. But I still got major questions about what it's going to look like at the top end of the league and how it's going to compete with the MLS. But I really do hope it works out.
I think it will. It's amazing to me. Just in the last 2 years, we went from what our source was telling us today that nobody wanted the ownership, and the USL didn't want any promotion relegation a year or so ago, to all of a sudden now we're looking top a Division I sanctioned league in the U.S. to now promotion relegation all within a couple of years. To me, that movement is amazing. Mm-hmm. So I think there's too much momentum. I don't think we have any choice but to enjoy it and look forward to the future.
Yeah, granted, just to touch on that, going from almost nobody wants it to almost a unanimous vote that passed.
Almost unanimous.
Crazy.
I don't know how many teams didn't. I don't know.
But did it?
This is a rhetorical question.
No.
What? I don't know. I don't know.
Less than Cinco.
Less than Cinco. Look at Ryan. Ryan's like, I'm not saying anything. I'm not giving anything up. And Ryan is not our confidential source. Rico, was it Ricky? What's his name?
Loren.
Oh, Loren. I thought it was California. But anyways, okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, so next podcast we're going to discuss our recent kind of thumping of Rhode Island. It's kind of a revenge tour and beating on them, and some scoring by some of our new striker and stuff like that. We can talk about that next time, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yay. Okay, we're unanimous on that one. All four of us. Okay. Thanks, y'all, and have a good night.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
See you, boys.
See ya.